Welcome to GeekFest, everyone. We are thrilled to be here today. The film is called Thread Circle, and we are honored to welcome back to GeekFest Beau Janzen. Beau, of course, is a visual effects education lead at Noman School in Los Angeles, and he has been doing award-winning visual effects artists and computer graphics supervision on a ton of Hollywood films and TV series. I am so thrilled. Welcome back to GeekFest, Beau.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Your film, Thread Circle, is nominated for Best Short Documentary, Best VFX, and Best Explainer Film. I'm going to hand it off to one of our hosts, Rob, who's ready to ask you things.
Great.
Beau, once again, welcome to GeekFest 2024, and Thanks. Congratulations on your 3 nominations. That is huge.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So I need to tell you, full disclosure, full transparency here. When this came across my desk, I thought, oh, math.
Yes.
What does film have to do with math and all that?
Exactly.
And I have to tell you, shortly into the film, not only did it, become fascinating in a hurry, but it was filled with wonder and new ideas, new and different ways of thinking. So, after that, I went to your website and saw that, oh, you've got other films in the similar category. So, once again, want to congratulate you, but also thanking you. I'm not so good with math. And as a result, having visuals, having animations to help kind of lay it out, my gosh, what a world of difference.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I am getting to questions here, so be patient here. So really, what I would like to know first and foremost, who's the intended audience here? Like, how do you hope it will resonate with viewers who may or may not have strong mathematical backgrounds, such as myself?
Yeah, good question. I think part of it is meant for me back when I was in middle school and high school, because I didn't really understand the concepts. I could kind of get through and get reasonable grades, but I didn't know why I was doing this. As someone who's an artist, I wanted to be able to make things and make pretty pictures and construct things. And I didn't see math as being something useful for that. And later on, as I got more into my computer art, especially, I realized that the numbers, this is how you make things, that at the heart of all creation is quantitative thinking, and how powerful that is. And as a storyteller, I'm really drawn to these ideas in math, that these are such powerful ideas that are so, I think, profoundly misunderstood, that people do have, this sort of either apprehension or even loathing somewhere along the line of math, because it's just kind of, monkey work. We're expected to solve for X and don't know why. And we don't see the real power behind that. And as someone who wants to engage an audience, to visually communicate with them, that's such an amazing story to tap into.
Amazing. So are there any challenges that you come across really in terms of getting math into visual, like really being able to break it down from a visual perspective?
That's why I feel very fortunate to be working with this medium of computer animation. Is it's so malleable. You can do so much with it, and it can just bend into anything you want to do. I think my challenges are more from the storytelling standpoint. I look at the ideas that I'm working with almost like, a character in a screenplay of what's compelling about them, what's interesting, what's sort of the path they're going on. And it's taking these, the complexity of it and making it simple, but also trying to tell the story behind the story. That, like in the case of Thread Circle, cool, I now know the formula for how to work with circles, but there's more to it than that. There's these kind of, these bigger things of how you handle when a new idea comes in front of you. How do you kind of adapt and see, what's interesting and compelling about that? And how do you pick apart complexity and find something like, how do I take something complicated and round as a circle and make sense of that? So it's always sort of I'm looking at the meta story, the story behind it, that makes it, I think, really palpable and as a bigger message than just cool, now I know this equation.
That was going to be one of my questions, because curiosity is, when it comes to deconstructing, thinking different ways to approach problems, is there a bigger picture here in terms of life learning lesson?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it doesn't, it's not a very long path to go from studying ideas in math into just philosophy. I mean, when you think about it, geometry, one of the main things you get in geometry is proof, right? So given this line and this angle, prove this angle is the same as that kind of stuff. And you figure, well, cool, now I can know things about, angles, but it's a much bigger thing than that. Euclidean geometry and proof, that's basically a framework for deductive thinking and deductive reasoning. The idea of proof is, what do you know and how do you know it? Which is a very profound thing. I mean, what we know and what we believe in from our method of proof, that's part of our identity. That's how we kind of fit into the world around us. And so that's a pretty lofty concept, this kind of epistemological, wonder of proof. But how do you get your brain around that? You need the basic framework of deductive reasoning. So going back to these basic skills in prove this triangle and this triangle are similar, that's the stepping stones to get you into thinking that way, these kind of abstract thinking tools.
So which came first? And I think I know the answer, but I'm still going to ask it.
Sure.
Was it your interest in mathematics or visual effects, or did they both happen at the same time in your career?
Yeah, it was kind of organic. When I look back at now, it makes sense, even though it wasn't necessarily a straight path forward. I always liked making things. And I remember as a kid, I never really liked like the books I had to read in school. So if you ask me when I was like in elementary school, I want to write textbooks. I think my textbooks are lame. But I always liked, making things, the construction. And I kind of fell into visual effects a little bit by accident. In graduate school, I was working, it was PBS, pre-internet distance learning, so satellite-based distance learning. And I got to get into computer animation. I was always engaged in animation, but I didn't really have the means of doing it. I did some stop motion as a kid that was kind of feeble. But this was this amazing medium I got hooked on, and the math really came in along with that. When I started seeing the direct connection of these numbers to the art I was making, these numbers are my paint and clay for making stuff. And so that became the messages I was much more drawn towards telling as I moved ahead. And from that work at PBS, some of my stuff got noticed, and I was contacted by a VFX studio, and that's kind of where my main career path took me.
Got it. So, Beau, I have been to your site. I've seen the collection of other films that you have created. Can you just name off a few of your favorites?
To be honest, the things that I think I like the most, the criteria for what I like the most is not necessarily the most prestigious. I mean, X-Men and Game of Thrones and Westworld, and Stranger Things. Those were great. But for me, creating it, what I liked was working alongside other amazing artists and the collaboration of it. I mean, in my educational work, I'm kind of a one-man band doing everything from writing it and even the audio design on it. But there's something really amazing about sitting in a room with these other highly talented artists and being, collaborating with them, and your work just kind of weaves together. So for me, the most fulfilling projects were ones where I got to really collaborate deeply with very talented artists. I mean, I got some work like with on The Mist, which was a series I'm sure no one saw, but I got to work with Kama Mohia and Bill Church and some people that just we got to do some really amazing stuff. And there's other shows, Reverie, which I know no one ever heard of, but I got to work with some, all the team, we were able to bring them together. So it's the collaboration I enjoyed the most, more than like high profile pieces necessarily.
That's amazing, Beau. I've got one more question, and then I'm going to pass it off to host Mark. Quickly into the film, many elements popped out at me. The narration. And not until the credits rolled did I notice a commonality, that being the last name. And are you related to Tina?
Very, very closely. She is my wife, and I'm very fortunate to have married an amazing vocalist. She was an opera singer by trade. She sang professionally for many years with LA Opera and all over the place. And so she has amazing control over her voice. And she's done my narration on things since I started. And I'm very fortunate to have her be able to lend her talents to my work. I've actually, for my work on TikTok, I've started to do my own narration, which I'm very self-conscious about because I'm following in her very massive footsteps of very great vocal control, but she kind of coaches me through some of that a bit. So thank you. Thank you to my wife.
Oh, what a great story and relationship. Once again, thank you. And what a treat having you here today. I'm now going to hand you over to host Mark. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. Hi, Beau. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
Okay, for caveat here, I may or may not be a math teacher. I may or may not have been involved in making Flash animations 20 years ago in math.
Okay, yes.
So just want to let you know, when I saw your work, I just started crying.
Oh, thank you so much. I remember Flash. I remember Flash trying to get things to work in Flash, and I feel very fortunate, like I say, to have this medium to work with and to bring to telling the stories.
Now, first question, were you at all influenced by the famous 1847 publication of Oliver Burns' Elements of Euclid, where he does all of Euclidean geometry in pure visual fashion?
Yes, absolutely. You can give me the pop quiz. The one I really got into, there's another one who did a visual, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
But in graduate school, I studied, I was undergraduate in graphic design and ed psych, but graduate school, I studied educational instructional systems design with an emphasis in cognitive ergonomics. And I really got into that on a very root fundamental level. How do you visually connect and tell information visually to an audience? And I remember the visual Euclid proofs are amazing. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. As a teacher, if you can draw it in under 5 seconds on the board, they'll get it more than any talking or exercise. Absolutely. Now, in the Old Testament, when they gave Noah the instruction to build the ark, they told him, it's pi equals 3.
Yes, yes. It's like Second Kings.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, Second Kings, they have a thing about pi equals 3.
Yeah. And then other civilizations come up with square root of 10 and whatever. The Greeks and Chinese had approximate fractions. When did mathematicians first accept that pi was irrational, and how do we deal with it?
That's, I think, one of the things I find most interesting is not just, here's the idea, but how we found it. I love the history behind it because it gives it a body, it gives it humanity, and it's a way you can trace how we know this. Because you think every person who's studying these concepts, they're starting from nothing, having to build into that. And to see how people figured that out, I think is a powerful vehicle for helping convey this. I love giving things historical contexts. And like the Egyptians thinking pi was square root of 10 and these kinds of things. What I also find great about that is that they struggled, they made mistakes, and how they got past that. And I love that part of it, especially when people refused to believe things. For instance, how the Greeks refused to believe that the square root of 2 was irrational, that the Pythagorean philosophy, that all this numbers, all basic, beautiful fractions, and this is an amazing vehicle you have for now quantifying everything around you. And you can now hook in math to everything you know. And then they immediately ran into a roadblock when they took the Pythagorean theorem onto a square and found this line that seemed to not follow any kind of rational value. And so they rejected it. In fact, they even killed the dude over it. They took poor Hippasus, one of the Pythagorean school members, and they went out the Mediterranean and sort of like left him in the Mediterranean. And so the idea that you would literally kill somebody over this, that if you look at the number 0 in Europe for centuries, they rejected the idea of 0. And so I think the idea that these aren't just kind of straight linear paths. That's the best part about it. Again, taking it back to the analogy of storytelling, if you have a character in a story, it's not interesting to have them, here's the character, here's their problem, they found the solution. It's not a linear path. That doesn't make it interesting. It's the conflicts that make it interesting. It's the struggles and the missteps. That's what make it interesting. And so I really like diving into these ideas about why did we think this way? One piece I'm looking to do here in the near future, a short piece on Zeno's paradox. And, you know, well, the problem with it is it's easy for the audience to take the takeaway of, okay, I guess they were stupid. It's like, no, they weren't stupid. Everybody comes at these ideas with their own way of seeing the world, their own way of believing how things work. And when that's challenged, it's part of human nature to reject it. And I think that's one of the bigger cautionary tales, is because we all have those same biases. And we all have these things that we don't want to shift our perception for how things are. And, you know, it needs to be humbling for us. And that's why I love those stories. But it's delicate to tell it and not make it seem like in the past, they were all stupid. It's hard to then connect that into ourselves and try to instill this hopeful humility into ourselves with it.
Well, I think the teaching of mathematics definitely lacks the history of mathematics, and you've just proven how fascinating the history of math can be beyond the math that we teach in schools.
Yes.
Question about software in general. Like, you're talking to a dude who barely made it to 3D Max Studio 20 years ago. How do you make this stuff? Just what kind of software, what kind of hardware? Where is this coming from?
I've thrown basically, well, for Thread Circle, I've thrown the whole kitchen sink at this. That I'm using my primary software I use is Maya. I've been with Maya since its inception. I was a beta tester on the first version of Maya back in the 1990 whenever. But I'm using, you know, Houdini. I'm using, I mean, Thread Circle, I threw kind of everything at it. It has everything from rigid body simulation, fluid simulation, you know, liquid flip simulation. It's got 2D hand-drawn things. It's got, you know, particles and character animation. It has like everything in it. I love being able to kind of have this, to draw upon the experience I have in making films and whatnot, and just whatever it takes to make the image, just throw it at it.
So how many Cray computers do you use?
One. That's part of it, though, is also being economical. That one of the things I hope I learned in my experience is how do you get so much to funnel through so little? If that's time that's little, or it's resources that are little, or the number of artists you can throw at this. So it's actually probably less the machine that it funnels through. It's there's one human that it funnels through. Is almost a limiting factor.
Awesome. Now, when I saw Thread Circle, I was convinced it was a team of mathematicians. Like maybe 10 people were behind writing this, and I realized now, no, it's one brilliant dude.
Well, thank you. The one thing I'll say is a lot of the lessons is I have to thank my students, because I have taught for many years, and as an instructor, you have to learn from your students. You have to know how they'll understand things, how they will be confused, what are the points, these sort of aha moments, how to pace it. I look at it in some ways, if you look at a stand-up comedian, that there's that innate timing and pacing. They know how to engage the audience, and they know kind of where the humor lies, and just all those skills and how to tell a joke, how to make it funny. But it takes lots of experience for that. And I'm hoping that I've done kind of the equivalent of that with my teaching, when you know how to engage the students, how to pace it, how to time it, the play on words, you know, all of that little nuance. But now the challenge is, how do you do that in an animation? We don't have people looking you in the eyes. And it's like the difference between being a stand-up comedian and then writing comedy for like a screenplay, when you're not there with the audience. But hopefully taking all that you've learned and applying it, so when you aren't in the same room, you can still be just as engaging, hopefully.
Great. You've done pi. What's the next irrational number? Or what is the next concept we're going to go after? Is it going to be 5? Is it going to be square root of 2? Is it going to be, what is it?
I've actually, I did early on, one of my first pieces was on Fibonacci and the golden ratio. And that's a great one, but I want to take thread circle further. I'm going into spheres because we've not seen surface area and volume of a sphere. I've got in my head, like I've got it all set in the story and the path. I just need, I need like, 6 months to be a guru in a cave and do nothing but that. It's hard to have a paying job and still do these things.
Well, I can't wait for high school textbooks to have QR codes to your videos.
Well, thank you.
Amazing job. Thank you so much. I'll send this back
Appreciate
to
it.
Thomas.
Awesome. Thanks.
Beau, at one point in my life, I spent a couple of years working on media for adult literacy applications. I worked with educational experts, and they had a very similar thing to what you're saying. They had a very similar way of approaching things. And your film also seems to, the thing that it does is it shows it in one way, and then it explains it in another way, and with the idea that one of these ways is going to be, because some people will understand it when presented it one way and another. So you didn't really work with educational experts when you were doing this. This was all you?
This was all me.
Wow, that's great.
The educational experts I had were the students I've taught, and seeing how they misunderstand things, seeing what confuses them. So, it's my learning has been from my students.
So was there a particular student that had a problem with pi that brought out this particular film?
No, it's one of those things, again, and part of it is also talking to myself back when I was in grade school and doing this, and pi seemed very messy. Pi seemed like when you get into radians, it's like, oh great, we got radians, we're sticking pi back into this for no apparent reason. I think that's one of the things, again, I feel very fortunate that I didn't necessarily gel with these concepts when I was going through school. And so I think it's maybe, I feel fortunate that I can see how you would misunderstand it. That's something that I think can be difficult when you're conveying a topic that you love. Like if you're teaching, history, I love history. I've always thought it was great, and I've always absorbed these books. And I'm teaching it to others, and they don't have the same passion I did. It just if it naturally sparks for you, it's hard to see how it wouldn't naturally spark for someone else.
So you picked all of these subjects because these were the ones that got under your skin somehow. Is that?
Yes, I mean the ideas of what I choose to do my pieces is concepts that I think are misunderstood or difficult. I mean. 2 years ago with GeekFest, I had Bug Bottle, which was on topology, and these ideas that it was that one actually worked with Konrad Poltier, a colleague of mine in Germany. He came to me with this thing of, hey, these ideas have never been really visualized for a more novice audience. So there's the challenge of how deep can I go with just visuals and not getting into terminology and having a whole college course in topology. Other stories that appeal to me, like I say, ideas that maybe stem upon the history of it. On my to-do list are things like Zeno's paradox. I want to get back into that. Or these ideas that have unexpected applications. Taking a simple thing and plugging it into, oh my God, now I can do this. I think it's important that you bring out the impossible in these, that I thought this was impossible. I thought I couldn't understand this, or I thought I couldn't do this. And now here you can. That sort of way of empowering the audience with this idea that they fully, that aha moment. I see it as almost like a reverse magic trick. Like a magician is there, they showed something to you, and there's that wonder of this impossible thing seems like it just happened. But it's kind of like that, but reverse. I think, hopefully, with what I'm trying to engage with, that there's something I thought was impossible, and oh my God, I now see what it is, that the impossible became possible.
I want to thank you for one particular film that I found on your website, which is a subject that I've always been angry about, and I've always I think you approached it. It was the PEMDAS PEMDAS one?
Yes.
Oh, this is for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the idea that when in mathematics or in programming, especially, you're supposed to do the multiplication and the division first, and then you do so you have order that explains which operations you do first. But you can do that, but it's still unclear. It's still like writing bad prose, and I loved how you approached that.
Thank you. That idea of order of operations, I want to do more on that because I think that's also very powerful. And I would do it outside the context of numbers because I'm working with like shapes and forms. If you take an object, you could deform it. You could like twist it or you can bend it. And if you twist it first and then bend it, that's a different result than if you bend it, then twist it. So to see these things happen, and in the bigger picture, the order in which you do things makes a dramatic difference. I think those are the kind of skills you need to, pick apart complexity and understand things. But when you're taught the tools for doing that as here's a mnemonic, it's PEMDAS, just memorize it and you be a good little monkey and go off and do that. That you're missing the real story behind it. You're missing the real power of this.
Yeah, and the geometry of lenses. What a wonderful way to think about geometry. I've actually seen people try to discuss the quantum physics of lenses because you're actually talking about light traveling at different speeds. Did your students particularly relate to those?
That's one that actually I've channeled other lessons that I've done in the past. One of the things when you're working in visual effects is if you're filming things on set, those lenses they had on set have to be reproduced digitally. And yeah, there's software, algorithms that can help you kind of solve for that, make it easier, but you have to fundamentally know how lenses work. And also as just a cinematographer, we are virtual cinematographers. We have to know how lenses work, not just the mechanics, but how that works to tell your stories. And so, yeah, all those things, that's critical for all of our students, working with lenses. So it's kind of a natural transition to then make a video of that.
So what do you enjoy more, the math, the physics, or the history? I see it in all. I'll see it all in your films.
Yeah, it's all part of the same wad. I think, and frankly, I think when you begin to separate things too much into little components, you lose the context. They just become little vertical stacks of information and they lack context with each other. I think you shouldn't be teaching these ideas apart from art. I mean, art and science and math, those all are linked closely together. History, it's part of all the same just wad of knowledge and thinking.
So you've been teaching for 5 years, I heard?
Yes. Actually, longer than that. When our daughter was born, I took some time away from working in visual effects to, it's like I can't be doing studio work and have a baby. So I taught for probably about 5 years, about 20 years ago as well.
Is it exciting to be a teacher? Is it what's your overall outlook on life since you've been teaching?
No, it's amazing. I've always been engaged in education with my animation work, but now it's always great to be in front of students and to, in this case at Noman, to help give these young artists their voice as an artist. It's very satisfying, very creatively engaging. And I stepped away from production work. I'm not doing production work at the moment other than my own projects, and I haven't missed it. I haven't looked back and go, oh, I really wish I could work on a feature, because the students keep me on my toes. They're still engaging and motivating for me. I'm hoping that I'm as motivating for them as they are for me.
Wow. I'm going to pass it off to the moderator.
Okay, our final question is, Beau, what have you learned about yourself through the making of your last film that you brought to our festival? What have you learned about yourself?
I'm gonna have a great answer for you in about an hour. It's gonna like, wait, I should have said this. It's learned about myself. Well, I learned a lot about the production. I feel very fortunate to be able to make these kinds of things. I'm always learning kind of mechanical things about how to economize my time, And, when I'm able to kind of spend time making these kinds of projects, so production strategies, but it's just kind of reaffirmed to me that this is what I really love doing. That, Bug Bottle was great. I loved it. It wasn't as much for sort of a novice audience. It had maybe a little bit of a wall to get through, but to do something on circles that's much more, this is a topic everyone touches on, that I just felt even more deeply inspired to keep doing this. This is what I think about, what I obsess over, and as me, I love working with the students here. I can't take anything away from that. But this is my passion. It's just further affirmation of that for me.
Thank you so much, Beau.
Thank you, everybody.